She had everything. He had nothing. On a lonely Lagos road, their worlds collided. When a homeless man fixed a billionaire's car for free, he didn't know that refusing her money would open a door neither of them was ready for. A simple act, a quiet choice. But how did that moment of kindness from a man with nothing end up changing a billionaire's life forever? Sit back and let the story unfold. You're watching African Stories That Touch. The road was quiet that afternoon, stretching long and lonely under the hot sun. Lucia Johnson, a young billionaire and the owner of UCVet Nigerian Limited, was driving herself for once, enjoying the rare freedom away from meetings and boardrooms. Suddenly, her expensive car jacked, made a strange sound and stopped right in the middle of the road. Lucia sighed deeply, stepped out and lifted the bonnet, but everything inside looked confusing to her. Her phone had weak network and the road felt strangely empty. For the first time in a long while, Lucia felt helpless. From the other side of the road, a man had been watching quietly. His name was Marcus, 28 years old, homeless and living on the streets day after day. His clothes were worn, his shoes dusty, but his eyes were calm and intelligent. He walked closer and spoke gently. "Madam, may I take a look?" Lucia hesitated but nodded. Marcus leaned into the engine, listening carefully, touching a few wires. "It's a small issue," he said calmly. Within minutes, the engine responded and came back to life. Lucia stared in shock, amazed that someone she least expected had just helped her. Lucia smiled with relief and quickly reached for her purse. She brought out some money and offered it to Marcus. He shook his head slowly. "I don't take money for small help," he said. Lucia was surprised. Most people would not refuse money so easily. She looked at him closely and felt something strange, respect mixed with curiosity. Instead of insisting, she reached into her bag and handed him her business card. "Come to this address tomorrow. Ask for me. The name is Lucia, by the way." Marcus took the card carefully. "I'm Marcus," he said, nodding in thanks. That night, Marcus slept in an uncompleted building not far from the road. The cold floor pressed into his back and hunger twisted his stomach. As he stared at the dark ceiling, regret filled his heart. "I should have taken the money," he thought. Hunger does not respect pride. He held the card tightly, staring at the name written boldly on it, UCVet Nigerian Limited, wondering if it would truly change anything or just lead to another disappointment. Early the next morning, Marcus cleaned himself as best as he could and made his way to the address on the card. The building was massive, tall and beautiful, nothing like the places he was used to. His heart pounded as he approached the gate. The security guard stopped him immediately, looking him up and down with suspicion. "What do you want here?" one asked harshly. Marcus showed them the card and explained, but they laughed. "Madman, go away," they said, pushing him aside. Instead of leaving, Marcus sat quietly outside the gate. Hours passed. The sun climbed high and his hunger returned, but he remained there holding on to hope. Then, around lunchtime, a familiar car rolled out of the gate. Lucia was inside. She glanced out of the window and suddenly froze. "Stop the car," she said sharply. She stepped out and walked straight toward Marcus. "Why are you sitting here?" she asked, shocked. Marcus stood up slowly. "They wouldn't let me in," he said simply. Lucia felt embarrassed and angry at the same time. She apologized immediately and took Marcus to a quiet restaurant nearby. As food was placed before him, Marcus ate slowly, politely, as if the food might disappear. Lucia watched him closely, her heart tightening. She asked about his life, and after a moment of silence, Marcus spoke. He told her how he grew up in an orphanage, how he left at 18 with hope, and how life on the street slowly crushed that hope. He survived by doing small jobs, sleeping anywhere night found him. Lucia listened without interrupting, her eyes softening. She had wealth, power and respect, yet this man had strength she admired deeply. When lunch ended, she made a decision that surprised even herself. "I want you to work for me," she said. "Be my personal driver. You'll have accommodation and food." Marcus was shocked. He tried to refuse, but Lucia insisted. "Everyone deserves a chance," she said firmly. Marcus moved into the staff quarters provided by Lucia's company. For the first time in years, he slept on a bed. Lucia went further. She hired a private tutor to help Marcus prepare for university entrance exams. At first, Marcus struggled, feeling shy and unworthy, but his determination was strong. Every day, he studied, worked, and drove Lucia carefully, grateful for the opportunity. Soon, the company staff began to notice something unusual. Whenever a car had a problem, Marcus fixed it easily without calling any mechanic. People were amazed. When asked where he learned it, Marcus simply said, "A friend taught me." Lucia noticed his diligence, honesty, and quiet intelligence. Her respect for him grew into admiration, and admiration slowly turned into something deeper she tried hard to hide. But not everyone was happy with Marcus's rise. Some staff whispered behind his back, jealous of how close he was to Lucia. They watched him carefully, waiting for a mistake. One day, money went missing from the office, and fingers quickly pointed at Marcus. The accusation spread fast. Lucia was called to handle the matter. She looked at Marcus, confused and hurt. Before she could speak properly, the staff pressure was heavy. Marcus stood there silently, his heart breaking. He had believed Lucia trusted him completely. When she hesitated, unsure of what to say, it felt like a knife in his chest. That night, without saying a word to anyone, Marcus packed his few belongings and left. He returned to the streets, choosing pain over shame. The next morning, Lucia discovered Marcus was gone. Panic gripped her heart. She searched everywhere: his room, the streets nearby, old places he once mentioned. Nothing. Days passed and guilt consumed her. She realized too late that she should have stood by him no matter what. Then one evening, the gate man approached her quietly. "Madam," he said, "I saw Marcus at a construction site not far from here." Lucia did not waste time. She drove straight to the site, her heart racing. Dust filled the air as workers moved about. Then she saw him, Marcus, carrying blocks, sweat dripping down his face. She stepped out of the car and called his name. He turned slowly, shock flashing across his face. Lucia apologized immediately, tears in her eyes. She said, "I should have believed you." Marcus listened quietly. He told her the truth, that he left because he did not want her company to fall apart because of him. "I didn't want to be the reason people questioned you," he said softly. Lucia shook her head. "We found who framed you," she said. "They confessed." Marcus was silent, emotions battling inside. Lucia asked him to come with her. Reluctantly, he agreed. She drove him to a beautiful apartment. She said, "This is yours." Then she handed him car keys. Marcus froze. "Why are you doing all this?" he asked, overwhelmed. Lucia took a deep breath. "Because I'm in love with you," she said honestly. "Not because you fixed my car, but because of who you are." Marcus felt the world spin. He had buried those feelings deep, believing they were impossible. Slowly, he spoke. "I love you too," he admitted. "I just didn't think someone like you could ever feel the same." They stood there, emotions overflowing, and embraced, not as a billionaire and a homeless man, but as two souls who had walked hard roads and finally found each other. It was a moment of healing, forgiveness, and hope. Marcus returned to Lucia's company stronger and more confident. He continued his studies, passed his exams, and slowly built a future he once believed was impossible. Lucia stood by him, proud and supportive. The staff who framed him were dealt with, and trust was restored. Their story became a quiet folktale people whispered about, how kindness, integrity, and patience can change destinies. From a broken car on a lonely road to a love built on trust, their journey proved that sometimes the greatest blessings come from the most unexpected places. The world is full of choices and consequences. The next story will test what you believe. Subscribe now and prepare to be shocked.